Ladies and gentlemen, friends, fellow travelers on this journey we call life, let me tell you something that I believe is essential for your emotional and mental well-being. And it's this: you are not responsible for the emotional needs of a narcissist. And yet, so many of us feel obligated to try to fix or manage their behavior because deep down, we want peace, we want connection, we want love. But what we often don't realize is that being nice to someone who doesn't see us, doesn't value us, or doesn't respect us only drains our energy and damages our self-worth. Before we dive in, I just want to take a quick moment to invite you to join this community. If you're finding value in what we're sharing, I'd love for you to take a second to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that bell icon so you never miss an update. And if this message resonates with you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who might need to hear it today. Together, we're building a space where authenticity, vulnerability, and growth can thrive. Thank you for being here. Let's get started. Narcissism is often subtle at first. At the beginning of a relationship, whether personal or professional, you may feel special, admired, and appreciated. The narcissist showers you with attention, compliments, and gestures that seem sincere. However, over time, you begin to notice a pattern. Their world is almost always centered around themselves. They demand constant validation. They expect admiration without reciprocating it. And they often believe that their needs and desires are more important than yours. This is the beginning of the cycle. The most telling sign is how they react when you don't feed their ego. A narcissist thrives on admiration, praise, and being the center of attention. When you fail to give them the validation they crave, or worse, when you assert your own needs or opinions, their behavior can shift drastically. It might start with subtle digs or passive-aggressive remarks. Over time, it may escalate into more overt manipulation, guilt-tripping, or even hostility. If you challenge their sense of superiority or question their actions, they may retaliate with criticism or deflection. They often project their insecurities onto you, making you feel responsible for their moods or failures. What is happening in these moments is a classic defense mechanism. The narcissist feels threatened when their illusion of control or perfection is disrupted, and instead of owning their own imperfections or vulnerabilities, they lash out or manipulate to regain control. This dynamic is often draining, as they have no interest in genuinely understanding or addressing your feelings or experiences. They are so absorbed in their own world that they are unable or unwilling to step outside of it to connect with you in an authentic, empathetic way. Over time, this pattern can lead to emotional exhaustion. The narcissist's needs are constant, their demands unyielding. And as much as you may try to please them, the reality is that it's never enough. There's always more they want from you, whether it's attention, support, validation, or control. What starts as small, seemingly harmless moments can snowball into a full-fledged power dynamic where you are left feeling small, invisible, and undervalued. If you find yourself constantly walking on eggshells, second-guessing your words or actions, or feeling like your emotional needs are never met, these are strong signs that you are entangled in a narcissistic dynamic. The most important thing you can do is recognize this pattern early before it becomes entrenched. The earlier you identify the red flags, the manipulation, the lack of empathy, the sense of entitlement, the quicker you can start to protect your emotional well-being and detach from the toxic cycle that often comes with narcissistic relationships. Understanding the patterns gives you the awareness and power to make decisions about your involvement and to take steps to reclaim your own peace and sense of self. Setting boundaries is one of the most powerful tools you have when dealing with a narcissist. It's also one of the hardest, especially if you're someone who has spent much of your life trying to please others, keep the peace, or avoid conflict. The idea of saying no or pushing back against someone, especially a narcissist who might react with anger or manipulation, can feel terrifying. But here's the truth. Setting boundaries is not just about protecting yourself from the narcissist. It's about honoring your own worth and your own emotional needs. Without boundaries, you are leaving the door wide open for someone else to take control of your life, your energy, and your well-being. When dealing with a narcissist, boundaries are essential because they establish a clear line between where your responsibility ends and where their manipulative behavior begins. The narcissist will likely test your boundaries repeatedly. They may try to guilt you, shame you, or even attempt to convince you that your boundaries are unreasonable or unfair. They might push back against your limits, trying to break you down until you cave. This is a strategy they've honed over time, and it's designed to keep you in a state of constant compliance, never questioning their needs or demands. But when you set clear, firm boundaries, you are taking back control. You are deciding what is acceptable and what is not. You are telling the narcissist, this is where I stand and this is where I draw the line. The beauty of setting boundaries is that they are not about controlling the other person. They're about controlling yourself, how you show up, how you respond, and what you're willing to tolerate. Boundaries empower you to protect your peace, your time, your energy, and your mental health. They allow you to say, I'm worthy of respect and kindness, and I won't allow anyone, no matter who they are, to take that away from me. It's important to remember that boundaries are not just about saying no, they're about saying yes to yourself. When you set a boundary with a narcissist, you are acknowledging your own needs and emotions as valid and important. And that act of validation for yourself is incredibly powerful. It may be uncomfortable at first. You might feel guilty. You might worry about the narcissist's reaction, or you might even question if you're being too harsh or too sensitive. But here's the key. You are not responsible for their emotional response. A narcissist will try to make you feel guilty for setting a boundary because it disrupts their control over you. But the reality is that when you set a boundary, you are showing up for yourself in a way that no one else can. Another crucial aspect of setting boundaries with a narcissist is consistency. Narcissists will often test your boundaries repeatedly, seeing if they can get away with breaking them. They may play on your emotions, bring up past mistakes, or try to manipulate you into thinking you're being unreasonable. If you give in even once, they will see it as a signal that you can be pushed around. But when you remain consistent in your boundaries, no matter how hard it gets, you reinforce your commitment to yourself. You show them that you will not be swayed by their emotional tactics or their need for control. It's also important to remember that setting boundaries doesn't require a dramatic confrontation. You don't have to announce your boundaries in a grand gesture or go into detail about why you're setting them. You simply need to state them clearly and calmly. For example, you might say, I'm not able to engage in that conversation right now, or I won't tolerate being spoken to like that. These simple, direct statements make it clear that you are not willing to compromise on your needs or your values. While setting boundaries is a crucial step, protecting your peace goes hand in hand with it. Protecting your peace means ensuring that your emotional and mental space remains undisturbed by the chaos, drama, and manipulation that narcissists thrive on. It means not allowing their behavior to dictate your mood or energy. Protecting your peace may mean distancing yourself physically or emotionally, choosing not to engage in certain conversations, or limiting your exposure to the narcissist. It may also mean finding ways to center yourself, whether through self-care, meditation, therapy, or time spent with people who truly value and appreciate you. One of the hardest parts of protecting your peace is learning to recognize when the narcissist is trying to pull you into their web of drama. They thrive on chaos and conflict, and they often use it to distract from their own insecurities or to regain control over you. But when you are firmly anchored in your boundaries, you can remain unaffected by their attempts to provoke you. You can disengage from their emotional manipulation and choose not to absorb their toxicity. Protecting your peace is about maintaining your own sense of calm and emotional well-being, regardless of what the narcissist is doing. In many ways, setting boundaries and protecting your peace are acts of self-love. They are the ways you show up for yourself when the world or certain individuals are trying to drain your energy or diminish your worth. When you stand firm in your boundaries, you communicate to the world that you are worthy of respect, love, and dignity. And when you protect your peace, you honor your emotional and mental health as sacred. Boundaries and peace go hand in hand, creating a foundation of strength and resilience that no narcissist can shake. Remember, you are worthy of love and respect as you are, and you don't need to sacrifice your well-being to appease someone else. Setting boundaries and protecting your peace are not only ways to manage a narcissist's behavior, they are also ways to create a life that is centered around your own values, needs, and desires. And in that, you reclaim your power. The power of no is often underestimated, especially in a world that constantly urges us to be accommodating, agreeable, and people-pleasing. Saying no can feel difficult, especially when you're faced with the pressure of others' expectations. But the truth is that it is one of the most empowering tools you have to protect your time, energy, and mental health. Saying no doesn't make you rude, unkind, or selfish. It makes you self-aware, self-respecting, and emotionally intelligent. And when you say no to the things that don't align with your values, needs, or well-being, you're making space for the things that truly matter in your life. Many of us have been conditioned to believe that saying no is a negative thing. We fear that we'll disappoint others or damage relationships, especially if we've been taught that being liked or being agreeable is a sign of being a good person. But in reality, constantly saying yes to everything, especially to a narcissist or anyone who demands more than we can give, will only drain us and lead to burnout. Saying no is an essential part of setting boundaries, but it's also an act of self-love and self-preservation. It's saying to the world, my time, my energy, and my emotional health matter as much as anyone else's. When dealing with a narcissist, no becomes even more powerful. Narcissists are notorious for overstepping boundaries, taking more than they give, and expecting others to cater to their needs without question. They may not understand or respect your no, and they will likely try to manipulate, guilt, or shame you into saying yes. They may even make you feel like you're being unreasonable or heartless. But here's the truth. You are not being unreasonable. You are simply honoring your own needs, and that is not something to feel guilty about. In fact, it is one of the most loving things you can do for yourself. The first step in embracing the power of no is to recognize that you are not responsible for other people's reactions to your boundaries, especially with a narcissist. Their response to your no will likely be dramatic. They might sulk, become angry, or try to make you feel bad for asserting yourself. But you must remember that their emotional reactions are not your responsibility. You are not obligated to manage their feelings or make them feel comfortable at the expense of your own emotional well-being. When you say no, you are asserting your right to protect your time, your peace, and your sense of self. One of the most empowering aspects of saying no is that it gives you control over your choices. It's easy to feel powerless when you're constantly saying yes to things or people who don't serve you. Every time you say yes out of obligation or fear of confrontation, you are giving away a piece of yourself. But when you say no, you take back that power. You're saying, I have the right to choose what I invest my time and energy in, and I choose what is in alignment with my values, my needs, and my mental health. It's an act of reclaiming your autonomy, your peace, and your sense of self-worth. Saying no also means giving yourself permission to rest, to say yes to your own needs, and to prioritize your own emotional and mental health. We live in a society that often values productivity, achievement, and people-pleasing over well-being. But constantly saying yes to every request or demand is unsustainable and ultimately leads to resentment, exhaustion, and self-neglect. When you embrace no, you are saying, I deserve to take time for myself. I deserve to rest. I deserve to protect my peace. And those are not selfish thoughts. Those are essential for maintaining your emotional and physical health. There's a freedom that comes with saying no. It's the freedom to live authentically without the weight of other people's expectations dragging you down. It's the freedom to stand in your truth unapologetically without fear of being judged or criticized. You are free to choose who and what you allow into your life, and you get to decide what is worth your time and energy. That freedom is empowering because it gives you the space to focus on what truly matters to you, to the people who genuinely care about you, and to the experiences that bring you joy and fulfillment. In practice, embracing the power of no means recognizing that every yes you say to something or someone is also a no to something else. Every time you say yes to a request from a narcissist or anyone who takes more than they give, you are saying no to yourself. You are saying no to your peace, your time, and your energy. But when you say no to those things that drain you, you are saying yes to your well-being. You are saying yes to the relationships that nurture you, the activities that fill you with joy, and the self-care that replenishes your soul. It can be difficult at first, especially if you've spent years trying to keep the peace or avoid confrontation. But the more you practice saying no, the more natural it becomes. And eventually it becomes easier to recognize when something or someone is not serving you, and you'll have the courage to say no without hesitation. Saying no doesn't make you unkind or selfish. It makes you strong, self-aware, and emotionally intelligent. It's a declaration that your needs matter. It's an acknowledgement that you deserve respect, and it's an affirmation that your peace is sacred. And when you embrace the power of no, you open up the space for everything that truly serves you. Things that honor who you are, things that respect your boundaries, and things that nourish your soul. Letting go of the need for approval is one of the most liberating steps you can take on your journey to self-discovery and emotional freedom. For so many of us, approval from others has been ingrained as a way of measuring our worth, our value, and our success. Whether it's from family, friends, colleagues, or even strangers, we have learned to seek validation externally in an attempt to feel worthy, loved, and accepted. But the harsh truth is that this constant need for external approval can be deeply damaging to our sense of self and can lead to a life that is shaped more by others' expectations than by our own desires and values. The pursuit of approval often leads us to constantly question ourselves, second-guess our decisions, and mold our behavior to fit what we think others want from us. In relationships, we might find ourselves compromising our own needs, desires, or beliefs just to gain the approval of someone else, even when it doesn't align with who we truly are. We might go out of our way to please people who don't respect or value us just to avoid conflict or rejection. But the truth is, this need for approval is a trap that keeps us stuck in cycles of people-pleasing, self-doubt, and emotional exhaustion. When we live in a constant state of seeking approval, we lose touch with our own voice, our own needs, and our own sense of what is right for us. We begin to rely on the opinions of others to define who we are and how we should live our lives, which only perpetuates feelings of insecurity and uncertainty. This reliance on external validation keeps us from living authentically, because we are constantly adjusting ourselves to fit the image or mold that others have created for us, rather than embracing who we truly are. And the more we rely on approval from others, the more we start to lose confidence in our own judgment and decision-making. Letting go of the need for approval requires us to shift our focus inward. Instead of seeking validation from the outside world, we begin to validate ourselves. We recognize that our worth does not depend on how others see us or whether they approve of our choices. Our worth is inherent in who we are, in the values we uphold, and in the authenticity we bring to the world. When we stop seeking external validation, we start living in alignment with our true selves. We make decisions based on what feels right for us, not on what will earn us praise, acceptance, or approval. This shift is not easy. It takes time, practice, and a willingness to confront the fear of rejection or disapproval. For many of us, the desire for approval has been so deeply ingrained that it feels like an essential part of who we are. We fear being judged, criticized, or abandoned if we stop trying to please others. But in reality, the need for constant approval is often rooted in insecurity and fear. It stems from the belief that we are not enough as we are, and that our value is contingent upon how others perceive us. The more we seek approval, the more we reinforce this belief, trapping ourselves in a cycle of self-doubt. To break free from this cycle, we must learn to trust ourselves. We must learn to listen to our own inner voice, to honor our own needs, and to make choices that align with our own values and desires. This requires cultivating self-compassion and self-acceptance. We must be willing to embrace our imperfections and flaws, understanding that we are worthy of love and respect, not because of our achievements or the approval of others, but simply because we exist. This shift from seeking approval to self-acceptance is a powerful act of self-love and empowerment. Letting go of the need for approval also means letting go of the fear of judgment. We can never control how others perceive us, nor should we try. People will always have their own opinions, biases, and perspectives, and not everyone will agree with or approve of our choices. And that's okay. We don't need everyone to understand us. And we don't need to be validated by the people who don't truly see us for who we are. When we stop seeking approval, we free ourselves from the weight of other people's judgments and expectations. We begin to live more authentically without the constant pressure to conform or fit into someone else's idea of who we should be. This journey of letting go of approval also involves embracing our own worth and recognizing that we are enough as we are. We don't need to earn love, respect, or acceptance from others. It is already ours, and it comes from within. When we stop seeking approval, we stop looking for external sources to fill the void within us. Instead, we begin to fill that void ourselves through self-compassion, self-acceptance, and self-love. We start to recognize that our value does not depend on anyone else's opinion. It's inherent in who we are, and it is unshakable. Letting go of the need for approval also means embracing vulnerability and being okay with the discomfort of not being liked or accepted by everyone. The fear of rejection often holds us back from being our true selves. But the reality is that not everyone will approve of us, and that's okay. What matters is that we approve of ourselves. When we stop seeking approval from others, we give ourselves permission to show up as our authentic selves without fear of judgment or rejection. We stop hiding behind masks or personas and begin to embrace our true identity, flaws and all. Finally, let go of the belief that approval equals love. When we seek approval, we often equate it with affection or acceptance. But approval is conditional. It depends on meeting the expectations of others. Love, on the other hand, is unconditional. True love is not based on what we do, how we perform, or how others perceive us. It's based on who we are at our core. When we stop seeking approval, we open ourselves up to love that is not based on external validation, but on the deep, abiding love we have for ourselves and the love that is offered to us by those who truly value us for who we are. Letting go of the need for approval is not about becoming indifferent to others or rejecting meaningful relationships. It's about shifting the focus back To you, it's about cultivating self-worth, self-trust, and self-acceptance. And in doing so, you free yourself from the limitations of seeking validation from the outside world. You become the source of your own approval, and in that, you find the power to live authentically, to make decisions based on your own values, and to embrace who you truly are, without the need for external validation. Choosing connection over pleasing others is one of the most transformative decisions you can make in your relationships, especially when you're dealing with individuals who demand constant validation or approval, such as narcissists. For many of us, there's a natural inclination to want to please others, to make them happy, or to avoid conflict. We often do this because we believe it will help us feel accepted, loved, or validated, but this mindset can be incredibly draining and disempowering because it leads us to prioritize other people's needs and desires above our own. We lose sight of who we truly are, what we actually need, and what our values are because we are so focused on making sure everyone else is happy. At the core of people-pleasing behavior is the fear of rejection or disapproval. We believe that if we say no, express our true feelings, or stand up for our needs, we risk losing someone's approval or affection. But the truth is, constantly striving to please others does not create genuine connection. It only fosters superficiality and resentment. When we people please, we end up putting on a mask and suppressing our true selves. We wear a version of ourselves that we think will be accepted, rather than showing up authentically and vulnerably. This is not true connection. It's a performance. It's a way of hiding behind an image or an ideal that we think will make others love us more, even though it leaves us feeling isolated and disconnected from who we really are. True connection, however, requires vulnerability, authenticity, and honesty. It's about showing up as our real selves with all our imperfections and complexities, and allowing others to see and accept us for who we truly are. And in order to create that kind of connection, we have to choose it over the need to please others. This means being willing to say no when necessary, to voice our feelings and opinions, and to set boundaries that honor our own needs and desires. It means being okay with the discomfort of potential rejection or disapproval, and trusting that the right people will appreciate us for our true selves, not for the version of us that's been molded to please them. When we choose connection over pleasing, we allow ourselves the freedom to be real. We stop pretending, stop hiding, and stop performing for the approval of others. Instead, we show up with honesty and vulnerability, allowing others to see the full depth of who we are. This kind of authenticity fosters deeper, more meaningful relationships because it is rooted in truth and mutual respect. When we stop people-pleasing, we also stop trying to control how others perceive us. Instead of molding ourselves to fit someone else's expectations, we simply allow ourselves to be seen as we are, knowing that this is the best way to invite real connection. The irony is that when we stop focusing on pleasing others, we often find that the people we truly care about and who truly care about us will value us even more. People who are genuinely interested in building meaningful relationships will appreciate our authenticity and will connect with us on a much deeper level. Those who are only interested in superficial approval or admiration may withdraw, but that's not a loss. It's an opportunity to make space for relationships that are built on mutual respect, trust, and understanding. In other words, choosing connection over pleasing others allows us to attract the kind of relationships that are truly enriching and supportive. On the other hand, when we continually prioritize pleasing others, we risk losing touch with our own needs, desires, and boundaries. We might start to feel resentful, exhausted, and disconnected from our true selves. People-pleasing often leads to burnout because it requires us to constantly give without receiving anything in return, whether that's emotional energy, time, or effort. Over time, we may begin to feel like we are constantly giving, yet never getting what we truly need in return. This imbalance can erode our sense of self-worth and leave us feeling depleted. We might find ourselves in relationships where we are always the one making sacrifices while the other person takes and takes without ever considering our needs. Choosing connection over pleasing also involves recognizing that not everyone is going to like us, and that's okay. We don't need to be liked by everyone to have meaningful, fulfilling relationships. In fact, trying to please everyone often leads to shallow, inauthentic interactions that fail to fulfill us. True connection is about being seen and accepted for who we really are, not for what we think others want us to be. It's about showing up honestly, without masks, and finding people who can accept us as we are. This is where real intimacy and trust grow. When we stop pretending, stop performing, and allow ourselves to be vulnerable. When we prioritize connection, we also create space for others to be vulnerable with us. Authentic relationships are a two-way street. Just as we are willing to share our true selves, we create a space for others to do the same. This mutual vulnerability deepens trust, fosters understanding, and strengthens the bond between people. True connection is not about impressing others, winning their approval, or molding ourselves to fit their expectations. It's about being open, honest, and willing to be seen for who we truly are. Moreover, choosing connection over pleasing is a key element of self-respect. When we people please, we often do so at the expense of our own values and desires. We say yes to things we don't want to do, we agree to things that go against our beliefs, and we put ourselves in situations that make us uncomfortable, all in the name of making others happy. But when we choose connection, we choose to respect ourselves and honor our own boundaries. We choose to show up as our authentic selves, and we trust that the people who are meant to be in our lives will appreciate us for who we are, not for what we do to win their approval. Choosing connection over pleasing also means being willing to face discomfort. It can feel uncomfortable to stop people pleasing, especially when we've been conditioned to seek approval or validation from others. But discomfort is a necessary part of growth. Choosing connection means being willing to sit with the discomfort of saying no, of speaking our truth, and of standing firm in our boundaries. But as we practice this, we become more comfortable in our own skin, more confident in our decisions, and more attuned to the people who truly support and appreciate us. Ultimately, choosing connection over pleasing is about honoring our true selves and prioritizing relationships that nourish us rather than depleting us. It's about recognizing that we don't need to bend, shape, or perform to earn love or approval. We are already worthy of love and respect as we are. And when we choose to connect authentically with others rather than people-pleasing, we create deeper, more meaningful relationships that are grounded in trust, vulnerability, and mutual respect. In the end, those connections are the ones that truly matter because they are built on the foundation of who we really are, not on the facade we put up to gain approval. So what do you do instead of being nice to a narcissist? You choose yourself. You protect your peace. You set boundaries. You say no with love and grace. You stop seeking approval from people who don't have the capacity to give it. And most importantly, you surround yourself with those who see you, value you, and honor your heart. Remember, you deserve more than to be a pawn in someone else's game of control. You deserve respect, love, and kindness. And when you stop being nice to a narcissist and start choosing yourself, you open up the door for healthier relationships, deeper connections, and a life that's full of peace and authenticity. You've got this, and I believe in you. Thank you.